Hello there and welcome back to another LEGO video, and I'm afraid this week was the finale of Ahsoka. So this will be my last MOC on the channel for now regarding Ahsoka whilst the episodes are coming out. I may revisit this show in a little bit and create another MOC, especially on the characters and scenes that I haven't touched, but for now the fourth week is my final MOC. So before we take a look at what I've got a few things to show off. Firstly, today marks the release of the new Dreamzzz magazine for the UK. Stay to the end if you do want to see it, as I'll be opening it up and there is an exclusive Z-Bob in this issue. But as we're looking at MOCs today, I just wanted to show off the Boba Mech. It's a mech that I don't think I've shown off. You've seen my Trooper and my custom Palps and Luke. So I thought I'd just show you that Boba Mech, how the arms bend, and you can see it leaves that nasty gap while the arm is open. But it just allows it to fit very snug when the arm closes, and that is really the only thing I've changed with the Boba Mech. The rest of the mech was good enough, so I just made it so that the arms could bend, and I've added this flame piece here as well for his flamethrower, so he can have his arm bent and be torching down his enemies. But for my Boba Mech, that is all I've done. Wanted to get that out of the way and look at today's MOC. The finale was amazing, but there'll be no spoilers in this video, as though Star Wars does like to spoil the whole premise of the show, the day the episode drops, I'll be allowing you to wait for your own time to see the show, and we'll be focusing on the LEGO build, as today I have built an Inquisitor mech, which more importantly resembles Marok from the Ahsoka show. Now, Marok died a few episodes ago, and I feel like it was just glazed over. He was just an Inquisitor that had showed up, he's sort of turned mercenary, and I won't spoil what happens to him, but he does leave the show early, and I have covered it in my other Ahsoka MOC videos. So I wanted to create a mech for him, as it was a really cool character, and it's great to see Inquisitors pop up in any context. And also, don't forget, I don't watch the finale until right before I've done this video. I literally started it an hour ago. So of course, today's MOC wasn't going to be based on that. However, I do think there are some really good opportunities to create MOCs based on today's episode. So let's take a closer look at Marok. You can see I've given him that double-bladed lightsaber and the joint arms that you saw on Boba Fett. However, what you didn't see was these arms, you can see, are fully plated out. You can see there's definitely a plate there and doesn't leave that nasty gap, which isn't too good from the top, but you can still see there's somewhat of a gap, but it just covers up that hole quite nicely. And I have added the Empire's logo on the sleeve. Now, I don't think Marok has the Empire's logo on the sleeve, however the other Inquisitors definitely do. So I guess I've made this more of an Inquisitor's mech than Marok, and I do have my custom Marok in the middle. If I ever get the T6, I will replace that with LEGO's official minifigure. But for now, it's just my custom sat there, which I think uses the helmet from one of the Death Star troopers, or even Jyn Erso uses a similar helmet in one of the Rogue One sets. So you would also clip the Inquisitor's lightsaber there, and that's what I've tried to replicate here. You can see if I pop it off the hand, which again, just like the actual mechs, I've made it so that the weapons can just pop on and off. And this one is a bit loose, as this round bit, or more of a square as I've created it, is held on with the one Technic pin. But you can see I've tried to keep it all black. I don't have a black version of this piece. I'm not quite sure if LEGO have even made a black version of this piece, but there are definitely workarounds if you wanted to create it fully black. And I've used two of Vader's new lightsaber element. You can see it's just in one of these Technic clips, and I've bridged the gap with one of these round, again another Technic piece. I'm not too well versed on the Technic bricks, and just clipped Vader's lightsaber in there and pinned two of them to this light bluish grey piece. However, it does the job pretty well. You can see I have tried to give it that rounded effect that an Inquisitor's lightsaber has, and again we can just clip this to the hand, and you can see just how easy it is to clip on and off, as it's just the 4 studs that clip to it, and the hand can actually curve somewhat round the hilt as it doesn't protrude from the hand itself, which again LEGO have it sticking out by 1 stud I think, so it looks like the hand's more resting up than actually curled around it. So I wanted to recreate that with my own custom mech, and you can see the legs are nice and thin. I've got the black tiles here, and I've rounded them off actually with slopes to show just how thin the legs are, as they wear a lot of body tight armor, But of course, you've got the black armor here, and you've got the grey sort of top to the boots, which does come up pretty much halfway up the legs. And I would have loved for this bottom bit to be black on the torso. I just didn't have the pieces for it. I've used them all in my Vader set and then used my other Vader mech to recreate Palpatine and Luke. So really, these should be black, but I have also created the torso, and as you can see, as with Marok, I'll put a picture up on the right so you can compare both images. Marok does have 2 buttons on his torso, which I've replicated here. You see the 2 tiny red buttons. If I give you a closer look, you'll perhaps be able to see them a bit better. But I've created that using just a plate underneath and used one of the rounded tiles that is half round, half square, just to give you the 2 little red buttons here, which again is great. He's got the square to the right, and it just, I don't know what that piece came off. I think that was off the leg, but it just gives the torso that look that you see in the show. And again, there's not much detail. It would be a lot better if this was printed, but it doesn't have to be. You've got the square, you've got the buttons. If we did get an Inquisitor's mech, I would love to see a few changeable helmets and then a few different printed tiles so we could switch them out, and perhaps that would encourage us to buy more of them to represent each of the Inquisitors. You've seen it with the recent Harry Potter Expecto Patronum set, where you can build either of the Patronuses, and most fans are going to buy 2 just to represent both of the models. So I'd love to see something like that in Star Wars. And again, I always say about the random stormtroopers we could get, they could even do it that way, where we get a random mech. Well, at least one of the random Inquisitors inside, and it's just a way for people to buy loads. But we've seen with the recent Marvel CMFs that people just end up opening the boxes and leaving ruined products on the shelf if they don't want to buy it. So I can definitely see why Lego haven't done something like that and have only stuck to the scale of the random chocolate frog cards in the Harry Potter set. But the arms do have somewhat full movability. I mean, you can bend the arm at the elbow joint, and I guess it can't come all the way round, but you've got that 90 degrees, which again, from the side, looks quite flush because you don't have that gap that I just showed you on Boba. And this hand is free to hold another lightsaber. Perhaps you could even split these 2 and it could come with another piece, but you can move the arm pretty freely. I guess because of this top bit of the armor, it is restricted, much like I'm sure most of the Inquisitors were. I mean, you can still bend the arm to make it hold the saber and perhaps somewhat mimic the little helicopter maneuver that gets most of the Inquisitors out of there, which I'm afraid we don't get to see in Ahsoka. But I did like building this mech, and definitely if we take a look at the other MOCs, I enjoyed building all these Ahsoka MOCs, but especially the mech. I don't know, I've got a soft spot for the mechs recently. I've reviewed the Wolverine, Hulk and Thanos mech all in one video. It's a bit of a long video, but please do go and check that out. That should be out as of this video being out. And I've also got a video coming up which upgrades all my mechs, and perhaps I'll even do another video because I've already upgraded the Stormtrooper mech and the Boba Fett mech, and I now have a Marok custom, I have a Palpatine custom, I have a Luke custom. Just going over my favourite parts of the mechs and what I hope to see in the future of the mechs. Now, we should be getting some sort of Ninjago mechs as well in the new year. Now, as far as Star Wars goes, we're only rumoured to get a few different sets, so perhaps I'll even be able to pick up some Ninjago ones and compare them to both the Star Wars ones, my customs and Lego's own, and also the Marvel ones, as I have mechs from 2 different waves and they are so vastly different from last year to this year. So I'm sure next year's are going to be very, very different, and I'm hopeful for the future of mechs. But let's take a quick look over all my Ahsoka mechs, MOCs, for those of you who haven't seen the last few weeks. And starting off with my first one, which was the CTOS diorama. Again, around this time I was very soft into the dioramas and creating dioramas of everything. Don't worry, there are plenty more dioramas to come, and though my shelf is filled with, I think I've got about 6 dioramas sat on the 4 different shelves, so there's definitely some stacking going on. But I think this resembled the scene very well. You can see the simple rock towers here, and I've even created the gold pattern going up this final one, where you can see the map is pointing to Peridia, and that's how they get their coordinates. You can even see how I've held it on there. The orb that is, with a little blue glow around for our galaxy, and the little green flame that hovers below it. I've included my custom minifigures in all of these MOCs, and in fact across the 4 MOCs, you can see all 8 of my custom minifigures that I created in the run-up to Ahsoka, and that was thanks to all the sets coming out. So I think I've covered most of the bases, except for, of course, the characters in the Ghost, as that is definitely a Lego set I'd like to pick up in the new year. And again, I think the Ghost will feature heavily in a few other shows if we get a chance to see it, as it's sort of becoming like the Millennium Falcon, especially with its connections to pretty much everyone. I mean, the Ghost crew is spread out so thinly in the New Republic, everyone's everywhere, so there's always a chance for it to show up. And you can see in this diorama, I've just tilted all of the rocks using hinge pieces on the bottom, and that enables them to be at whichever angle I desire. And of course, I've tried to replicate the scene as well, so we've got this little stubby rock down here, and of course, Balon, Shin, and Morgan Elsbeth, who definitely is someone not to be underestimated. So that was my first diorama, and then I believe my second diorama was this T6 shuttle, which is based off this exclusive Millennium Falcon cockpit that we got in a convention a few years ago, and I've taken that inspiration and twisted it into the cockpit of the T6. You can see we've got Hyang in the back, and perhaps Ahsoka and Sabine are in the wrong seat, and Sabine seems to have lost her handlebar. I have no idea where that's gone, but if you want to see the MOC in its entirety, do check out that video, as I go into a lot more detail, and you can see how I've just created the curve of the ship. It's a bit flatter than the Falcon, and I have tried to show that, as this is meant to represent the top half, so I flattened out the top just a little bit. I think it's 1 or 2 studs shorter than the Falcon's cockpit, but it does have that complete interior with controls on both sides and some seats that, of course, spin around, so Hyang can access the controls or be facing forward. So again, that was my second MOC. The video is up, and I really enjoyed building these two, as especially this T6 shuttle was definitely a bit different to usual, as it's based on an exclusive set that not many people may have even seen. And I think around the same time, I created a diorama of the detention block rescue, which again is up on my channel, and that is also based off an exclusive convention set. I think that was even from Star Wars Celebration. But my third Ahsoka MOC was Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and this is based heavily on the microfighter. The top bit's pretty much unchanged, as I don't really have any bricks to add weathering to a model of this scale, but the underneath is the important part. I've added the Dathomir Tower, which obviously the Great Mothers have been sleeping in for so many years prior to Ahsoka. So that is what docks with the shuttle just here, and though the model does dock a bit more centrally than at the front, to enable me to create this pattern on the back, I had to move the Technic pin a bit forward. In fact, it may even be where the original microfighter has this Technic brick, but I've whacked it there just so Thrawn's Star Destroyer can dock. And of course, that has made its way for this pattern on the bottom. Again, another image will be on your screens showing the pattern on the bottom of the Chimera, which is Thrawn's flagship Star Destroyer. And it's this squid-like shape, and you can see I've tried to recreate the tentacles curving round and all the other bits going off, like all these little tentacles just at the back here. And I think I've done a decent job for a microfighter. Obviously, if Lego gave us this model, this would be some sort of printed base or printed tile would whack on. But I wanted to try and stay true to Lego bricks, and rather than printing a sticker to add on to it, I wanted to create it out of bricks, and I don't think I've done too bad a job. And funnily enough, this probably took me just as long as the T6 shuttle or the Marok Mech, as the amount of designs I went through this, I wish I could show you, but there's just not enough time, as I was constantly changing this. And yeah, I think the diorama definitely took me a bit longer trying to get all these pieces to match and replicate the scene well enough to show off what I intended to, but this is definitely not to be underestimated, as just because of these bricks on the bottom made it so hard. But that was last week's custom build for the Ahsoka episode, and of course this week I showed off Marok. So let me know. I'll put up a community poll in the community tab where you can tell me your favourite Ahsoka custom. Now, I know a load of you like the dioramas, so I'm pretty sure that'll be one of the top ones, but let me know which your favourite is from the last 4 weeks, and I'm really interested to see which one comes out on top. But that is all for the Ahsoka custom. So just before we go, I did promise at the start of the video would be taking a look at this new Dreamzzz magazine. So let me clear all these and we'll get Matteo and Z-Blob built. So the Dreamzzz magazine is completely new. The Dreamzzz theme in general is new to, I think, September it launched, and I do have the Dreamzzz Village, which is still set up here on my display case. I mean, this is a third of it, but I did get a poly bag with it, with this bunny and a little spider chair, which is really cool. And this is the Z-Blob that I have from that poly bag, which of course launched alongside the Dreamzzz theme. You can see it uses a new sort of child piece. I'm not sure if it could be used for children. I don't see why they couldn't, as it enables them to hold it. And if I take off this slimy head bit, it's just a normal minifigure head on this new body. And you can see the body piece here is quite interesting, the way it stands on a stud and has the two arms which are able to hold usual bar pieces. And there's the minifigure head, which is not what we get in this magazine. In fact, just before I started recording this, I had a little scroll on Lego's website, and I do believe this is a brand new element for Z-Blob. We've got this one in a few other sets, and we also have one of them dome pieces, which you can see is on the original Mech. And I'm sure if you've seen any of my Lego store trips, or you've been to the Lego store yourself, you'll have seen it dotted around all their displays, which is very great for the Lego stores to do, as it does advertise Dreamzzz very well. I mean, it encouraged me to pick up the Dreamzzz Village online. So without further ado, let's crack into this and see what it is. You can see I've sort of torn that a very dodgy way, but what's meant to be in this pack is Matteo, who is one of the main characters of Dreamzzz. I'm not sure Dreamzzz has exactly a main character, but if you haven't watched the show, this is the main character. He has this sort of pencil weapon, which honestly would have been lovely to get in this poly bag, though if we did, would there really be much point picking up the set? So they got to keep some things exclusive to the set. And you can see that the pieces do have dual molded legs. The printing on them is great. No arm printing, no side of the leg printing, though we do get some brand new printing. And even the legs, I'm not sure we've had any dual molded dark bluish grey and red legs, so maybe some of these dual molded pieces are also exclusive to the Dreamzzz line. And Matteo himself is really cool. You can see just on his hair, we've got some slime elements here. We've got a little bit of green on his hair. So again, new hairpiece, custom printing on the face, the torso and the legs. And of course, let's get to the Z-Blob Mech. Now, when you do have the magazine, usually the instructions are on one of the pages. I'm not quite sure if they're carrying this over with the Dreamzzz magazine, but you can see you get plenty of comics and activities and even more comics. Most magazines usually have about 2 or 3 comics. You also get these posters in the middle of every magazine. Star Wars, Marvel, Minecraft, DC, they've all got posters, and some of them are actually really cool. I've been keeping some of the recent Minecraft and Star Wars ones, as they're just really cool to put up. And you can see the assembly for the character and the Mech, which maybe I should have followed. I've just realised that I have forgot to put on Matteo's belt, which isn't the best. But you can see these magazines are really cool. Now, the biggest problem with these magazines, and many of you will know, is that they are only sold in Europe. Now, I don't know why they're only sold in Europe. That seems to be some sort of problem, as far as I'm sure a lot of American fans of Lego would love these magazines, and especially to get the opportunity to get some of these really cool exclusive characters that only show up once or twice, like Kenobi from Kenobi Starship, or even Bo-Katan from her Gauntlet. They're characters that have only shown up once, and especially as far as Bo-Katan's concerned, in pretty pricey sets, and to get them in a magazine, this magazine was $4.99. They usually are about a fiver. Sometimes you might get a second poly bag with the magazine, and that'll up it to about £7, but for the most part they're pretty affordable compared to some of the Lego sets. And to get some of the exclusive characters on them, they're really missing a market by not selling them over in America, and that really is my biggest question for Lego right now. So if you do know why they're not selling them in America, let me know in the comments. But also let me know if you're in America or overseas outside of Europe and you want to pick up these magazines. I'm sure not every European country gets these magazines, as I was just recently made aware that the Lego books with the exclusive minifigures, so that's the visual dictionaries and the character encyclopedias, aren't even sold everywhere in Europe. So it's disappointing to hear, but sometimes there is a problem getting some content to a certain country, and hopefully Lego branches out soon. If we take a bit of a look through the next magazine, you can see the next minifigure is actually featured in the magazine. We'll take a look at the end and you can see Cooper with his robot arms, and he does come with a dual molded face, much like I'm sure Matteo does here. We'll take a look at that in a second, but just to show you the rest of the magazine, you can see plenty of puzzles, and of course the answers are at the back for you to check your work. And right at the end we get some door hangers which are double-sided and are just pretty cool to whack on the back page. You'll always get something like this, or a mask, or some buildable container for the Lego gift that comes along with it. And overall, these magazines are just a bit of fun, and if you have a kid that's interested in Lego, these are great because the activities in them are, again, really cool. But even if yourself's interested in Lego, I recommend picking them up because you get the awesome poly bag, which now are all paper bags. You can see, I think across pretty much all the magazines, they're all paper bags. The only exception is if you get a second gift. Sometimes you'll get a foil pack. Earlier in the year, we got a Lego Star Wars magazine which came with an X-Wing in a paper bag, though the Razor Crest that came along with it was in a foil bag. But just before I wrap up this video, I'd just like to show off the dual head on Matteo. You can see there's a bit of a happier expression, I guess, on one side, and on the other there's a bit more of a sort of game face, I guess, for Matteo. So there's the game face, and of course you've got the happier face. You've got the back printing and the green belt, which I missed out when I first showed off this video, so at least you got to see it there. And this Mech 4Z Blob is based on this set here, which is up on lego.com. It's just come out, so you can pick it up to go alongside the mini one. But this headpiece for Z Blob is completely unique to this magazine, which is great for it to launch with the magazine, as it gives more people a reason to pick it up, and once you've picked up the first one, perhaps you want to pick up the rest. So it's definitely different. It's the smaller Z Blob we've ever got, and this one is very interesting as it's more to Z Blob's original size, so Matteo can hold him, and perhaps if you rigged him up with some sort of backpack, Z Blob can appear to be sat on his shoulder. So I'm very happy to have picked this up and to get a more accurate size Z Blob as well as Matteo, and I have to add him to my Lego City somehow, perhaps saving someone from one of the nightmare monsters that has crossed over into the realm. I did really enjoy the show for Dreamzzz actually, so if you do have a bit of spare time, perhaps it's not the most interesting show and there are others on Disney Plus that you perhaps want to watch, just like Ahsoka. But if you do have some spare time, it's worth to have on in the background. It's got some really interesting story, and overall it did make me laugh quite a few times as well, so it's quite a fun show to watch. This will be heading to my city, and perhaps Z-Blob will get his mech back. But of course, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed all the Ahsoka MOCs that I've put out. Stay tuned for plenty more mechs to come, and I hope you like looking at the magazine. If you do want to see more of the magazines, I've shown this one off today because it's the first one, and perhaps many of you aren't aware of a Dreamzzz magazine coming out at all, as Lego haven't exactly advertised the magazine. But if you do want to see more of the magazines, I know we've got a Star Wars one coming very soon, so perhaps I'll be able to pick up one of each and show them off on my channel, just to give the overseas audience a chance to see what we're getting. But once again, I hope you enjoyed. Do leave a like if you like this video, and if you like this series, make sure to like it as many times as you like. I know you can only like it once, but just keep hitting the like button. Subscribe for more awesome Lego content, as well as all the reviews, customs, and brand new sets to come. And I can't wait to see what's to come for both Ahsoka and Dreamzzz in the new year. But till then, may the bricks be with you always.